So this is considered a patent breech, and it threads into the barrel up so far. So our ramrod goes in right up to that patent breech. So there's no powder in it, there's no bullet in it. That's a good thing. The Sear is going to snap down behind the fly. See that? What I want to do is I want to release the rear trigger so I can see how much play I have between the rear trigger and the Sear. You can see some of the oil working its way around the threads and the slot there on that screw.
Hi, and welcome to Over the Gunsmith's Shoulder. I'm Gene Kelly, president of the American Gunsmithing Institute, and in this segment, Master Gunsmith Ken Brooks is going to walk you step by step through a gunsmithing repair. You're going to learn a lot. And if you'd like to learn to be a certified professional gunsmith, then go to AmericanGunsmithingInstitute.com and request an information package. Now let's learn from Ken.
Welcome back to another Over the Gunsmith's Shoulder. Today we're going to work on, first off, a muzzleloader, which is kind of cool. A lot of guys don't work on them at all, or sometimes you don't see them. Other people specialize in them, so kind of cool. So this particular one is a Thompson Center. This one is a 54 caliber, Hawken style, obviously. The tag says, make sure it works and clean the nipple. So a quick overview, you can see that this had a bit of rust on it. Still does, but you can see it used to have a fair amount more. You can see somebody tried to unscrew the back portion of it here. The screws are got some rust in them, got rust here. The gun's pretty beat up, but it's a Thompson Center. They're a quality muzzleloader. I like them. So the first thing we're going to do is I've already done this because I remember doing it when the customer dropped it off, but I'm going to do it on camera just so you guys know. Is this thing loaded? How do we know? I mean, you can't open the breech and look to see if there's a shell in it, right? So pretty simple. Most of you probably figured it out. Take the ramrod out and slide it down the bore. Okay, normally what I'll do is just grab a hold of it. You can see we got about 3/8 of an inch between my fingers and where the wood starts. If my arms are long enough, and they are. Now I just line up here at the front and here at the back. Now let me get a pointer here. I forgot to get one. So this is considered a patent breech, and it threads into the barrel up so far. So our ramrod goes in right up to that patent breech. So there's no powder in it, there's no bullet in it. That's a good thing. So we know we are indeed empty and we can start monkeying with things. I'm going to go ahead and leave that ramrod out. So I'm going to pull it back to full cock. There we go. Oh, well, there's a problem. So the rear trigger is the set trigger. I should pull that, it should set. The front trigger should catch and hold that in place. It does not. The front one should release the hammer, and I don't want to drop it on that nipple, so I'm going to hold it. It does, goes all the way down to the nipple. There's our safe notch, and all the way back. So a couple things. Customer specifically asked that the nipple be cleaned because, again, we're rusty and whatnot. I've got a couple wrenches. I don't even know which one is going to work on this particular nipple. We'll see when we get to that. And then we're going to have to address those double set triggers. So first thing we're going to do is take the barrel out, and it's actually pretty simple. I'm going to bring this back to full cock, push out our wedge. Use the proper tool. Any non-marring thing, I just wanted to tap it down to where I can grab the head on the other side and pull it out. Now the barrel rotates right up and out of the stock. Literally that simple. So I'm going to put the stock and that stuff over here to my right, out of the way, and I want to get this nipple out. Now if you look at it, you can see, I'm going to take my glasses off for a minute so I can point at a couple things. You can see there's rust down inside the nipple, and nipples come in made out of different stuff these days. You can get them made out of stainless steel, and if you're shooting one of these, I recommend you just get one of the stainless steel ones. It just helps. Black powder is just so corrosive. So here is one nipple wrench, and it's a little chewed up. Let's see if it'll go on there. And oh, so we got really lucky. The nipple is loose. But look at the bottom. Look at all that rust. You can't even see the hole, the flash hole. Lots of rust. So, grab myself a little brush, and now you can see that hole, and I can see nothing down in there. And by nothing, I mean I can't see daylight through the hole. It's full of rust. And I'm just using a dental pick to reach down in there. Come back on this side. And what you can do is take a small drill and drill up through that. It's already got a hole, so it's just plugged with rust. Usually a drill that size, you don't want to open it up, will clean that right out, which we'll do probably here in just a few. We'll do a couple other things first. Just trying to get that cleaned out. So I'm just going to dunk that in some lacquer thinner. And sometimes if you've got a small enough piece of wire, you can just poke the wire through and it just cleans out the hole real simple. And I'm not seeing a little piece of wire handy. So I'll continue to use this dental pick real quick. I just spotted a piece of wire I can use. And just see that come all the way through finally. Run it back and forth. And actually I can see daylight through it now. Now I still want to clean out this end of it a little bit. Let's try a bit of pipe cleaner for part of that. Yeah, it's going to clog it back up. It's all right. Just go back and forth. So when you're, a lot of guys go, well, why, how does that not get clogged every time you shoot it? When you shoot it, the pressure and everything, the cap, the primer essentially, blows fire through the hole this way, sets off the powder, it expands and blows back to some degree, and it's sort of self-cleaning. Once you get them clear and you start shooting, usually it's not a problem. Kind of tedious. And I'm just trying to clean that out a little bit at a time. I'm just twisting it to get some of that rust and gunk out of there. Now, one thing is you're not going to get to see me test this. Our schedules are pretty hectic right now. And so getting to the range, I'm going to go when the weather's good, when I've got the time and opportunity. And Robert is super slammed right now, so he's not going to be able to do it either. But I will give you the rundown on how I would test it. So once I get this all cleaned and oiled, the barrel cleaned and oiled as much as I'm going to, what I would do is I'd take a charger, your powder charger, set them out, fill it up, pour it down the barrel, put a cap on it, and pop it. See if the cap sets off the powder. I don't actually have to load it with a bullet. As long as the fire gets through there, sets everything off, I know it's going to work. Then I'm going to have to come back and clean that, because black powder is very corrosive, and that is what I use. What I use in my personal guns, what I use here in the shop for black powder guns. I don't use the replica stuff, Pyrodex or 777 or any of that. So when I bring it back, I'm going to have to take the nipple all the way out, clean it up. It's not, obviously it's not difficult, it's just one of those things, and redo it. But I am seeing daylight all the way through there. I do that a lot below on things. Keep them clean. I'm just going to brush off the nipple a little bit. There, in that close-up, you should be able to see daylight all the way through. Cool. So I may do a little bit more cleaning on this side, probably not much. You guys saw what I did. I used a pipe cleaner to clean, so it's kind of got a chamber, if you will. It's larger in diameter here. And then down at the bottom is just this little hole. The hole's clear all the way through. Now though, I want to take a Q-tip, and that's just lacquer thinner, just because that's what I have. And I want to come down in here, and there's bits and pieces. As a matter of fact, let me take this patch. So look at the rust and crud coming out of there. So that is one of the reasons this little screw is here. Let's see how lucky we are. The nipple came out. Let's see if this one does. That one is not wanting to come out. So that's what they call the clean out screw. And you can remove that screw when it's not rusted in place like this one and go straight into the chamber here. When you pour the powder down the barrel, it comes down, fills that chamber, the barrel. The fire goes through the nipple, makes a 90-degree turn, comes over here, and sets off this powder. So by taking this screw out, you can get a straight shot in there to clean that out with your pipe cleaner or Q-tip or whatever it is, as a general rule. Yeah, lots of crud down in there. And so what I want to do is I want to get that clean out screw out of the way, that nipple out of the way. You can clean this all off, wire wheel it, whatever. And I need to get that to break loose, and it simply may not break loose. So there's a couple ways we can go. We can put some oil on it and let it soak, which is probably what we're going to do. And you can either put the oil here and let it soak. You can turn this up like so, put oil down in where the nipple goes and turn it like so, so the oil wants to soak down through the threads on that. And you can warm it up as part of that. And that's part of the reason you want to make sure it's empty before you start putting a torch on it to warm things up, is you don't want to set the gun off, because they'll go off if you get them too hot. So what I am going to do right now is put a little Croil down in there, and then I'm going to set this off to the side, and we'll actually work on the triggers while we let this sit and soak for a couple minutes. Okay, so what I'm going to do is tilt the barrel just a little bit to the right. Give it a little squirt of Croil. And then I've found that if I squirt a little ballistol in there as well, it seems to help. I'm going to go ahead and screw the nipple back in just by hand, not super tight or anything. And that way, when I turn this over here like so, just less likely to have, the nipple helps keep the oil in place. So I don't have to worry about it dripping all over the counter. All right, moving on. nipple wrenches and such out of the way. We're going to go ahead and take our lock out first. Partially because I want to see how rusty things are under here. Hey, not bad. Got a little bit of rust right there. Our fly is still there, so that's good. For those of you who don't know, the fly, so hammer all the way down on the nipple, or my finger, as the case may be. Bring it back to the safe notch. Okay, here's the sear. There's the tumbler nose of the sears in the safe notch, and it is a notch. It's not just a shelf. You pull the trigger or pull the sear, it can't disengage from the safe notch. That's a good thing. Sorry, I got distracted by the rust on the hammer there. It was bugging me. Now, I want you guys, as I pull the hammer back, I want you to watch. This is the nose of the sear, and this is our sear. Here's our tumbler. I'm going to pull it back to the full cock notch, and this is the fly. The sear is going to snap down behind the fly. See that? Continue to pull the hammer back until the sear enters the full cock notch. Now our fly is here. Well, what's the fly do, you ask? Double set triggers. You set the rear trigger. When you pull the front trigger, the rear trigger flies up, hits the sear, trips the sear from the full cock notch, but the sear isn't held out of engagement. So the trigger comes up, hits the tail of the sear moves down, but then the trigger bounces back. Again, it's spring-loaded back. Now the nose of the sear comes down into contact with the fly. If the fly wasn't there, it had entered the safe notch. Now it goes all the way down and fires the gun. Bang. There's the safe notch. So if the fly wasn't there, you set the trigger, pull the trigger. If the geometry's right, the timing's correct, the springs are all in the correct place, it doesn't matter. But the fly alleviates this problem. Most of your guns with double set triggers these days have a fly with a hammer like this. I'm not talking about Mauser double set triggers. I'm talking about this kind with a hammer and a tumbler. They'll have a fly of some sort. So once again, sear comes up behind that fly. Now, we're not to the full cock notch yet, so if I release the hammer, the sear comes into contact with the fly and misses the safe notch, and the hammer would come all the way down onto my finger or the nipple. So I'm going to repeat. Back to the safe notch, all well and good. My finger feels better already. Pull the hammer back. We pop, the sear pops behind the fly, which kicks the fly forward. We continue to pull until our sear enters our full cock notch. Cool. So this is all complete. Very little rust here. There was a little bit there, some on the backside of the hammer, which is not uncommon. Got a little bit up here. The gun's not here for clean and oil. It's here to make sure it works. I'm cleaning off some of the bigger chunks, and I know you can't see it right now, but I get better leverage. I'm not trying to hide anything. I'm going to clean out the nose of the hammer a little bit yet. Some of that rust. Just cleaning that out so it looks a little nicer. Honestly, that's all well and good. Now I'm going to put some oil on the mainspring, the fly, the sear plunger. There's a coil spring underneath there. So you can see this is a modern muzzleloader on the inside, coil spring, stamped sheet metal, bridle. I'm going to make sure that these screws are tight too. Good. from the outside, it looks a lot more authentic than the insides. But these are a good, simple, basic gun. Just a side note: the first muzzleloader. This is exactly the kind of muzzleloader my father had. 54 caliber, same configuration, stock, barrel, everything. They bought them as kits, him and my grandfather and my uncle put them together. And by kits, they were finished. All I had to do was bolt them together. And then they did some hunting with them and stuff. So that was the first muzzleloader I ever got to shoot. I shoot flintlocks now. I got the bug. And there's something about a flintlock just turns me on. I just love them. So that's my thing now is I don't even have a percussion muzzleloader. I'll get one someday. My father happens to be alive still, which I'm happy of, and I built him a percussion long rifle that I will get. I think my brother got the one that looks like this. All right, so what I'm doing now is I got to take the triggers out. And then we'll explain how they work, or in this particular case, how they do not work. All right, one of these screws goes down. And not that one, that one's a wood screw. At least I think. Going off my memory now, it may be that these are both wood screws. You know what? I think they are. So I'm used to the later style, or excuse me, the earlier style actually. And like my flintlocks, they have a tang just like this. I have one screw. It goes through the top tang, through the stock, and actually screws into the trigger plate. And then I have the trigger plate retained at the rear with the wood screw. This one just simply has the wood screw. I just simply forgot that. Okay, now those just lift right out. Oh, cool. No rust. No rust at all. All right, well, so what's going on here? How do these work? All right, you can see right here how we got some wear and tear. That's the part of the rear trigger that hits the Sear. Okay. This one, when you set the trigger, it stays down. You pull the front trigger, it releases the rear one. This large spring here throws the rear trigger up to where this leg of the rear trigger hits our Sear and trips it. Hits roughly in there. Bang, trips it, and away we go. Or these are set up to where the front trigger has a long tail on it. You simply pull that trigger and it pushes the Sear tail out of the way. So you can fire it with a heavier pull here or a few ounces with this pull when it's set up correctly. Obviously it's not. This screw between the two limits how far down the front trigger tail rests. So I'm going to try to back it out. I thought that would be looser. There we go. So big, heavy spring for the rear trigger. Very small, light spring for the front trigger. As I back that out, watch that front trigger move down. The tail here will move down. We pivot from right here. It's going to move like that. So as I rotate that out or unscrew that screw, that tail of the front trigger moves down. See that? Now at some point it'll stop. So I'm going to simply stop now. At some point it'll bottom out in the trigger and the screw will continue to unscrew until it comes out of the trigger plate. So at this point I'm going to turn it around and actually give you a view. I want to hold it at an angle to where you can see, and Robert's looking over my shoulder, So we may have to jockey this a little bit. I want you to be able to see the triggers so you know what the orientation is. And then right here on the front trigger, the rear trigger is going to be caught. Front trigger catches the rear trigger right there. Now I'm going to hold that, and as I pull the front trigger, see that? See how the front trigger moves? Watch right here. As I pull the front trigger, it eventually releases the rear trigger, which can then fly up. That's the sear surface for your set trigger. I unscrewed this screw so far because I wanted to A, show you guys what was going on, and B, now I can screw it in, because right now, watch how far I got to move that trigger. And I still haven't released it still hasn't released the rear trigger. Moves a long ways. You literally want it to move just a little bit. It's a hair trigger, a set trigger. As far as adjusting these, it sort of depends on the shooter and the person bringing me the gun. So I don't know that the owner of this gun set this, is the one that allowed the, I think they acquired it kind of in this condition. I don't think they're the ones that let it rust and whatnot, but I don't know. So if I give this a really super light hair trigger, set trigger, really cool, the way I would do it, or the way I would do it for a regular muzzleloader shooter that's used to double set triggers, it's going to be super light. So I may want to give it a little bit of creep. It's still light, but it's got a little bit of creep, but it's less likely to bump off because they're not used to it. A lot of people aren't used to it. Once they get used to it, we can always adjust it to a lighter pull at that time. So that's basically what I'm going to do, and what I've done now is it catches, I got a little bit of creep, but it's super light. So now I need to seal this screw, and I'll be using just fingernail polish to seal that. All right, if you'll note, right here is a screw that's underneath our rear trigger spring. If I rotate it around, you can see right here, it's an Allen screw. Some of them are, some of them aren't. And that limits how far this rear spring pushes the rear trigger. So if I back that out, that spring can move further into the trigger housing or down towards the trigger. Well, if it moves further down, it's going to push this leg up. So on double set triggers, how we want them set up is with the hammer at full cock in place, and this unset, we want it almost touching the sear. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set that first. This is going to give us some rough ideas of where we need to set this, or place it, adjust it. Place the trigger group back in place, hammers at full cock. Now if I pull the front trigger, that rear sear, the rear trigger, should fly up and drop the hammer. But I don't want to do that because my thumb's in the way. I don't want to do that. What I want to do is I want to release the rear trigger so I can see how much play I have between the rear trigger and the sear. See that? Fair amount of play there. The reason we want very little play is we want this portion, the rear trigger, to hit that sear with as much force as it can to be sure to trip the hammer. So right now, we got a certain amount of play. We're set. We pull the trigger. Our hammer starts to fly up. Well, it stops gaining energy at that point. Now it continues on, tripping the sear, we hope. If we adjust it to where it's almost touching the sear under full tension, there's more tension on the trigger, hitting the sear. So I want to back this screw out. I hope it's not rusted in place. And what I may do also is try to unscrew this heavy spring simply so there's no tension on our little screw when we try to manipulate it. Come on. Turn for me. There we go. Here we go. Okay. Good boy. Okay, let's put this guy back in here. Tighten that up. And the reason you set it, or the reason I set it before I put it back in, is if it's out of adjustment, let's say it's pushed up that far, when I go to slide it in here, it's going to come into contact with the sear and try to trip the sear before it's fully seated. You guys need to come take the triggers class. They are fun. All right, so same thing. Hammer's at full cock. I want to release the tension, right? So now I can see how much play, very little play, but there is play. See that? Good. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and put this back in here, and we can do some dry run on it. Check a couple things out. So, set it, all well and good. Now I don't want this to drop fully, so I'm actually going to snap it onto my finger. I want to just push the front trigger. We fired. And all the way down. Not to half cock or some craziness. A little bit of play there. So I hope that made sense. I hope you guys understand what's going on there. There are some other idiosyncrasies, you know, how this, you know, where the sear, where the trigger hits the sear. If there's sharp surfaces there, they can dig in and slow things down. If they're soft, they bend or they gall, you know, things like that. I think you can understand that if this has that big spring in the back, the rear trigger spring, is pretty strong, and if it's out of adjustment, now I can push this trigger forward and drop the hammer because I just replicated it flying up. So imagine that spring, this is out of adjustment. We got this screw backed out completely, where this trigger is held in this position. Now when we go to cock the gun, it won't cock. So you gotta have that little bit of play. And I like to check it, that's another thing I didn't mention, is I like to check it here, a little bit of play, that's your safe notch. You don't want anything holding that sear and keeping it from entering the safe notch. So we got a little bit of play on that, of course the front one we know. Same thing when we go all the way back. Very cool. All right, with that being done, I'm going to put that in half cock. I am going to put some fingernail polish on a couple things. Keep them from vibrating around. And it'll also let me know if somebody else monkeys with this. Now I want to do that rear screw as well, but I want to clean off the oil that's on there. In all honesty, I should probably pull that out and put a little oil on a couple spots. It did the same thing on the lock, so we will go ahead and do that here as well. All right, so that's all adjusted. And now it's got the sealant on there. So we're going to go ahead and put it back together. And then we'll go take another look at that other nipple area. And this is the lock screw. Now our lock plate here doesn't really want to come out. There we go, good. Again, not doing a detail clean and oil, I'm just knocking off the big chunks. All right, we'll lean this back up over here. Come back to our barrel. Take our nipple out. And see if, whoop. Come on now. There's always one thing that wants to fight you. Well, I do want to get that out. So, do you have to have one of these? Does this screw have to come out? No, it doesn't. We can run water, solvent and stuff down the barrel, through here, come squirting out, run a patch up and down in there and force stuff through. It's not necessary. Some guns do not have that. It's just one of those things I would like to get out, because then I got a straight shot. It's just nicer. It's just nicer. And I don't want to break it, because then I got to drill it out and retap it and fabricate a whole new one. We don't have time for that. Not an over the shoulder. All right, well, let's try something else real quick. See if I can do this right here where you guys can see. Okay, so basically, I'm just going to heat things up here a little bit. You can see some of the oil working its way around the threads, the slot there on that screw. See kind of that rust colored stuff. You don't want to get too carried away. We're just warming it up. You can see some of that smoke on there. Just about ready to stop. We don't want it to get too hot. We just want that to now we're going to see. Hey, guess what, boys and girls? Look at that. Nice. Awesome. It's warm. I mean, I can hold it. Sometimes that's all it takes, because it did not want to come loose. Okay, so at this point, basically I was just wanting to be able to shove a pipe cleaner straight down and in as far as it would go. Look at that. I think it's hit and it's actually curved up that way. Yeah, that's exactly what it did. A little bit of the fuzzies from that was coming off. So I just got to make sure I keep that stuff out of there. And I'm just looking down in here, keeping that clean. All right, so now basically what I want to do is I want to run some solvent down through there. I noticed that at the end of the bore here we're a little rusty. Not unsavable, but just a little rusty. And so I know I'm going to get some rust and stuff out of there. And I want it to flush all the way through. So normally I just go to the sink with some hot water and do it. But since we're here and that's going to be a little more difficult, I want to try and figure out a way to do this where I can show you guys. And all I need really is a little bit of solvent and a cleaning patch or two. So I got an old ratty patch here, or a brush, excuse me. That is cruddy. And first, I'm just going to run a damp patch with lacquer thinner first, wrapped around that old. Basically, what I'm feeling for is any bulges, any extra drag and rough spots. And actually, I didn't feel that many. So a little bit of rust, but not near what I expected, I'll be honest. So I'm going to try a dry patch this time. Yeah, so somebody swabbed it out a little bit anyway. All right, let's put our lacquer thinner away before we spill that and put that up here. So what kind of solvent should I use, or what should I use to get all the way through that? Like I said, normally I just use hot water. Black powder dissolves in water. Hot water works great. You just got to make sure that you get a good oil down through it once you're done. So I need to be able to pour something down the barrel. I don't want to make a mess. So basically I got a tin here. And you know what? Maybe I'll just use lacquer thinner. I have a fair amount of that. All right, so what I'm going to do is just pour some down the barrel, and you're going to watch it bubble out the other end. There you go. See that? Look at all the little bits of crud. There was a piece of the pipe cleaner right there that I didn't get off. Little bits of rust and stuff. And lacquer thinner will just dry up. And you don't want to get it on you. You want to kind of stay away from that. But what I wanted to do was make sure that I had a good, clear way for that to come through. Now, I am going to use, and I don't care how pure this lacquer thinner is, so I'm going to pour it back in here. Take a ratty old paper towel. Because now I want a nice oily bore before I test fire that. So that's something to be aware of too. I got a friend who's in our muzzleloader club. He's a percussion guy. He's not a flintlock guy. And he's a good friend of mine. Well, they clean their guns, kinda. And they use like 1040 weight. So they'll clean the, he's got a chrome lined bore on his rifle. And it's a good thing because he really doesn't take that great a care of his guns. And if he had a standard bore, it'd been wrecked years ago. He's got a chrome lined bore, so he gets away with this. So anyhow, when he cleans it, they use a heavy oil. Well, you can see that, you know, the fire has to go through the nipple, into the hole, make a 90-degree turn, go all the way to the left, into the main powder charge, which hopefully has come back here. Sometimes it doesn't get all the way back here. Sometimes it's up here a little ways. Then it's got to make another little turn to set the main charge off. Well, when he cleans his gun, going back to my buddy, with oil, so sometimes this whole chamber and this gets just full of oil. And before we shoot at our shoots, normally you take a dry patch and you clean out your bore and whatnot. Well, that's all well and good, but when you run that dry patch down, sometimes it just shoves all the oil and crud down in here. And so there's been times when he hasn't been able to shoot because it's been so packed full of crud. So I want it oiled because I don't want it to rust. But I don't want it so dripping wet that the fire, that when I pour, remember I have to test fire this, and I'm not going to use a bullet, but I'm going to load it the same powder and primer. I don't want to dump the powder down the barrel and have the powder get saturated with oil and die, or get caught up down here to where the fire can't get at it. So there's a happy medium there. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use my good old favorite ballistol. Give a couple good squirts here. And got our brush and a patch. And what sucks is I got to be able, you're not going to be able to see me start this because everything's so long. Well, maybe you'll be able to see me start this end. And then what I want to do is, and it's dripping all over, run the patch down, see the oil coming through there? Okay. So now I know I have oil all the way through the breech. Throw that one away. And I'm going to run a couple dry patches down. And again, this is just awkward. And the only reason it's awkward is because we got a couple cameras in here and it's not a lot of room. And I'm having to explain what I'm doing as we go. Because as you can tell, this has probably been done a long time ago. If we were. Okay, so what I did now is I ran a dry patch in there. And you see how we got oil just everywhere? And it's saturated. Well, I don't want the black powder getting saturated with that. So I ran that dry patch down and I got the dry patch on the brush just sitting here at the bottom. Because I want it to absorb that excess oil. Not all the oil, but the excess oil. And now I'm just oiling up the gun here below the stock where it's going to sit. The dry patch, and that one. Pull that patch out. You can see it's pretty damp. I think I'll run another dry one down it just for fun. Okay, so now I'm going to take this Q-tip. I'm going to make it thinner. Reach through there, reach down through there, but I didn't lose any of the fuzz down in there. Clean out that little bit of it. Somebody tried to unbreech that. Look at that, it's all chewed up. Put a wrench on there. Not the correct wrench, obviously. The customer was asking about that. They're like, yeah, it looks like somebody's... And I'm like, well, if you don't have to, that's one of the reasons they were worried that it might be loaded. They're like, somebody tried to unbreech this. What's going on? So we checked it. We were all good. Okay, on the little clean out screw, right here on the side, I'm going to put a little grease. I'm going to do grease because we want this to be able to be removable. I don't want it resting in place. And I put the grease on the screw, not in the threads in the hole. That way, as I screw this in, the grease doesn't get pushed ahead of the screw. It stays on the threads. If you fill the hole and you start screwing that in, a certain amount of it gets pushed forward to the nose of that screw, and it ends up with grease down in our breech, where we don't want. See, no grease. It's moly grease, so there you can see it's that black from here on the outside. Cool. Now, if we didn't lose our nipple, the nipple you can get a pretty good wrench on. So I'm going to get our nipple started. Take our nipple wrench. There we go. And snug that up. Now I'm going to bring the hammer back to full cock. Start the lug on the back of the barrel inside the tang. Rotate the barrel down into the stock. Take our wedge. Sometimes they're bent. And a lot of times when they have a bend, it's so they hold things tighter. Now that won't fall out. We stay tight. So we're back together. Load notch or safe notch works. All the way back works. Pulling the front trigger, we fall. I don't want to drop it on the nipple, it'll deform the nipple. Pulling it all the way back, set the rear trigger, reach up and pull the front one. We're light, as it should be. Remember, we got a little bit of play there. All well and good. Nipple's clean. Got the clean out screw hole clean. The bore has been swabbed out a couple times. It is oiled, so we are safe to take this to the range and load it. And like I said, what I'll do is I'll take a charger. I'll probably only take about, I don't know, 30, 40 grains. You don't need a ton. You just got to have some get down in there. Put a cap on it and make sure that the cap goes off and sets off the powder inside. Now sometimes what you'll do, because before you start a shoot at our rendezvous anyhow, I don't know if they do them everywhere, we'll do what we call a fouling shot. And so you basically do just what I described. You dump a charge down it, you cock it, you put a nipple on it, and you pop it to make sure that your fire lane is clear, the gun will fire. Flintlocks are basically the same way. You pour the powder down the barrel, you pull the cock back to full cock, you put priming powder in the pan, close the frizzen, pull the trigger, the flint hits the frizzen, flips it forward, sets off the powder in the pan, which should set off the main charge, and boom, it goes poof out the barrel. Sometimes, I know that was a long-winded explanation, sometimes what happens is you put a cap here, you drop it, it goes bang, and the fire just shoots the powder out the end of the barrel. It doesn't set it on fire. So I will do a couple things. If I can pour the powder down the barrel, put a cap on it, and it goes poof and sets off the powder, no problem. I'll bring it back. I'll clean the barrel, and we'll be done. I'll know that we function as we should. If it pops here and throws the powder out the barrel, I know that the fire's getting all the way through. It's probably going to work, but what I would probably do at that point is I would load, again, another 30 grains of black powder, roughly, whatever I decide. And then I may even take a patch and just ram it down on top, so there's a little resistance. Then I'll prime it with a cap. When the cap hits, it takes more force and it has more time for the fire from the cap to set off the main charge. And it just shoots a patch out. This time of year, that's no big deal, no fire danger. You know, it's pouring down rain or whatever. So just some different things, and we'll see how it goes. But that's a quick, or not so quick, overview of this one. Came in for, hey, is it going to work or not? And we found a couple things going on with it, and addressed the one or two things that the client wanted. So, cool. We will see you next time.
If you want to learn real gunsmithing and see more videos like this, be sure and like and subscribe so you don't miss out. If you're interested in training to be a real gunsmith, go check out the American Gunsmithing Institute.com. Or for your own firearms training, AmericanGunsmith.com.